Welcome back. This is a bit of footage that should have been in episode 7. And this footage here should have been in episode 8. And the next few minutes of this video, episode 9, is going to be dedicated to catching up on some integral building processes and footage that I thought had been lost. So as you're watching the eaves get cut back here, you might also notice the staggered, fairly random looking TNG crawling up the gable wall there. And it's not flush to the eaves, and you might wonder, what are you going to do with all that? Well, just remember, this is going back a couple videos, and we covered all this with plywood and rigid insulation. So in order to get it up quickly, I just slapped it up where it needed to go and nailed it off for structure. It's all structurally sound, and it achieves what the inspector was looking for. And then here again, more of the plywood. This adds shear strength to the diaphragm of the wall system. This section I thought was important to show, primarily because there may have been questions in some of the viewers' minds about how exactly I buried my wiring below this rigid foam. And here you can watch how that process takes place. I carefully scribe around the Romex wire and my home runs, dedicated circuits, whatnot, and then I snap a line and start carving and chipping away foam, basically, so that I can notch out around those areas, because otherwise the rigid foam will be pushed out of shape, and then that will affect the siding, of course, and I don't want to have any lumps if I can avoid it.
My pain's gone away. The air is much cleaner after it rains. Follow my love, the scent that's in spring air. Follow the moon into the sun. There's a call for new beginnings here. Let the sorrow of yester disappear. Let your body be new. I'm a wanderer of the soul. Before the end I plan to behold, but I know I'll lose myself along the way. What's gone is gone. What's past is past. Let me leave what belongs in the past. The road ahead is quite unclear. Let me walk in despite fear.
Now you can see I have notched the panel, and I have to be very careful here to make sure that I don't drive any nails through any of my electrical lines. Okay, so now we are solidly into episode 9. As you can see in this bit of footage, I am starting to cut the metal roofing, and at the moment I did not have a cutoff disc for my skill saw, so I just started making the first initial cuts with my grinder, and that was a pain in the butt. So needless to say, I finished off all the other cuts with the skill saw after I went to the hardware store.
let your body be new.
At this point, it got cold, and if you look closely here, you can see the thin layer of frost that's clinging to the foam. And you really got to watch yourself closely up here in those conditions. So Thanksgiving had just recently passed, and we were working our way into Christmas. The weather changed fairly dramatically, and we started to get a lot of freezing rain, and it was pretty wet for a while, which can be pretty miserable on the fingers and the toes, and just makes doing roof work 10 times more dangerous. This was the first snow of the season, and the timing was perfect, I guess. I had just gotten the roof buttoned up and was feeling pretty satisfied about that. The verge boards are in, as you can see. The eaves were cut back, and all my flashings are on. And it was nice to exhale and just know that this is what it's all about. Sometimes just watching and listening to the silence of the snow. As the first snow melted off, we got back to work gathering firewood and burning slash from the summer. And it's just always an enjoyable process of having a bonfire and enjoying each other's company and working together, the joint effort it's hard to beat. So here I'm bucking the doors and the windows, and this is all Doug fir #2 material. And again, for the motif that we're going for here, this is going to work perfectly. The 2x12 will just be held slightly inside of the 2x6 vertical studs that I have going around the openings inside. You'll see that later. And then they protrude beyond the face of the rigid foam by about 1.5 inches, so they will be flush with the car decking that will go on the outside. And this is that detail I was talking about. You can see I'm holding the 2x12 out just a bit, so it gives a bit of a dimensional reveal next to the studs in the wall. And I think it's going to look nice once I'm done fabricating the windows. There'll be a couple different lines that will work together to give some nice dimension there. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you again next week when we start siding this thing.